So why do we have negative thoughts? Well, it has a lot to do with perspective, okay? So if we are constantly seeing certain thoughts as negative, right, we call them negative thoughts, we're going to tend to see more of them, right? So your perspective can be, for example, if you were to think of a leaf falling from a tree, I use that example a lot, right? Is that a positive thought or a negative thought? You know, if you were to think of an elephant, is that a positive thought or a negative thought? If you were to think of a plant, is that a positive thought or a negative thought? There is no real connotation, right? It's not positive nor negative. They are just thoughts. What I'm trying to get at is that applies to all of your thoughts, okay? It has a lot to do with perspective. So if you had an experience, right, and you seem to be thinking about that experience a lot, right? That experience comes to mind often, and it was a quote unquote negative experience for you. Those negative thoughts cause for you to feel sad or depressed, et cetera, right? For you to feel negative. Really, the reason we call negative thoughts negative is because they make us feel bad, right? In some way or another, okay? But it has a lot to do with perspective. So the more we label our certain negative thoughts as negative, the more we're going to have them in our mind, okay? Because the second you put a label on it, you're giving it power, okay? Thoughts are thoughts. This is the perspective shift that needs to happen for you to no longer have negative thoughts, okay? It's kind of like it's like when the Fed did the thing with the it's like we're no longer in a recession. They just changed the definition of a recession. It's kind of like that, right? We're just changing the definition of what we define our thoughts as, okay? But it has power. It has true power to it. You have to work this into your mind. You, in a sense, have to brainwash yourself into changing the perspective of your thoughts. So when you have these negative thoughts come to mind, take a step back, analyze the thought for what it is, see how it's affecting you, see it like in third person, okay? And then tell yourself, look, this is just a thought. It's not negative or positive. It's just a thought. I can think of a leaf falling from a tree. Is that positive or negative? I can think of a plant. I can think of an elephant, et cetera, et cetera. You tell yourself these things in the moment when you catch your quote-unquote negative thoughts. When you catch these thoughts in the moment, this is like the first couple of steps, right? It's not like one day to another, all of a sudden negative thoughts are, eliminated, right? It's like going to the gym. You work at it, and eventually you can reap the results of your work. So what you're going to experience is these thoughts that are quote unquote negative, they come to mind. And you're going to say, okay, well, why do I feel this way? I feel this way because I'm thinking about this experience or anxiety, right? It's something that's going to happen in the future, right? I'm thinking that certain things are going to go this way, are going to go another way, right? You're applying for a job and you're thinking that you're not going to get the job, or you're going to ask a girl out on a date and you're thinking that she's going to say no, or whatever the hell it may be, right? You're thinking of something in the future. You can choose to, because right, you always have the choice. You can choose to label it as a negative thought, and that will in turn make you feel bad, right? Or change your perspective. Say, why do I call it a negative thought? Why am I choosing to label it as a negative thought? Realize the power behind that, though. The power is that the more you label these thoughts, the more of them you're going to see. That's just how the mind works. The more you label things as positive thoughts, right, the more you're going to see positive thoughts or positive experiences. Your perspective changes. Or the more you think of negative thoughts, the more you label your thoughts as negative, right, the more of those negative thoughts are going to come to mind, right? So, for example, there's an experience where there's a truck, a convoy in the military, right, a Humvee, and a bomb blew it up. Okay, and one guy lost his legs and his arms, right? Just everything, right? His limbs. And let's a little extreme. He lost his legs. Okay, so somebody can see him in the hospital and say, "Oh, you were so unlucky to have been there at that moment when the bomb went off and to have lost your legs." Right? That's their perspective. And then he, the one that has no legs, right? The one that was in the accident. He says, no, I'm lucky as hell because the three other guys in the car died, right? And I was at least able to live. I'm at least able to come back and see my family, see my wife, see my children, okay? It's all perspective. You could have a very negative experience and have these negative thoughts around that experience, but you are the one causing that. There's nothing else that is in control that is controlling your mind. It is all internal. It's not something external from you. Okay? So you yourself are the one putting yourself through this mental torment. First thing is you catch these thoughts that you don't want to have going through your mind. It no longer has power over you, so it doesn't affect you. And then once you fully change the perspective, naturally these thoughts won't come to mind. It takes time. I went through a period where I was in real good control of my mind, but there was a time where negative thoughts would just come to mind. Like I would see it come. And now I'm at a point where I can, like, it was like weeks where like the negative thoughts I would see it coming in, right? And I would laugh at myself. I'm like, why do these negative thoughts always come in? And now I'm at the point where they really don't come in whatsoever. And the other day I was in a nice little meditation, and I was thinking of something, and I realized how my old self, I was like expecting the negative thought to come in, because back in the day that's what would happen, right? And I'm sitting there expecting it, and I'm like, oh, wait a second, that's right. They no longer come to mind, and it didn't even come to mind. It's only a certain select few are gonna be able to really understand what I just said, right? If you've experienced that or not, but it's like you can see the thought coming. And back in the day, like I said, that thought would actually come, the quote unquote negative thoughts, right? And now that I've changed my perspective, now they no longer come. They no longer, like, if I'm thinking of a certain scenario, right, and I'm trying to think of an experience the way I want it to be, right, in order to manifest it that way. The opposite, the negative thought, like the counterpart of what I wanted, right, like the opposite happening before would come to mind. Now it doesn't even come to mind. I'm at that point now where I've trained my mind to get up to the point where I'm at. So again, you can no longer have these quote unquote negative thoughts if you change your perspective on them. Realize that they are just thoughts, okay? Thoughts have absolutely no power over you whatsoever. And the first step is to be aware of them. The second step is to start to implement it. There's a bunch of different ways you can tackle it. This video is specifically on changing your perspective, right? But there's a bajillion different ways to attack it, which I'm going to be going over, which I've gone over in previous videos, right? So you can watch older videos, not older, but recent videos on my channel, or the following videos I'm going to be making, okay? So the first step is the awareness. The second step is to start to change your perspective. And then eventually, after time and time again of you consistently changing your perspective and, again, essentially brainwashing yourself, weeks, months, you will get to the point where these negative thoughts just do not come to mind. You've cleansed your mind. It's a very, very beautiful state of mind to be in on a 24/7 scale, right? Day after day. It doesn't go away. It's like you've trained up a skill that is there. It's a beautiful, blissful mental state to be in, which I wish for everyone watching to experience, right? So if you like the video, please drop a like, comment down below, subscribe with your post notifications turned on. And if you want one-on-one mentorship with me, you can sign up through the Patreon link in the description below. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.